Hi, Nat.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm ever so well. Thank you very much for asking.
Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, where we break mental health stigmas through conversations. I'm your host, Nat, and we dive into topics about trauma and how it impacts the nervous system. Yet we don't just leave you there. We share insights and tools of self-care, meditation, and growth that help you be curious about your own biology. Your presence matters. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. Help our community grow. Let's get into this. Oh, and please remember to be kind to yourself.
Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, Stefan. I am so thankful you're here with me.
And it's the same here. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be a guest on your show after you have been a guest on my show. So it's
Yes,
beautiful to be on the receiving end, so to speak, and help you and your audience to just think about things in a different way.
I love it. I love the collaboration, and I love that we can start to pollinate our different audiences so that we can bring them into the dialogue. Because, like I say, it's all about frequency, and
Mm,
everybody can hear the messages in different ways. So, any
mm,
way that we can collaborate to bring that healing for people, I'm all in
mm.
for it.
Exactly.
Will you join me in a meditation?
I would be honored.
Okay. For the audience, a lot of you are listening to this podcast audio, probably driving or doing some physical activity. I'll ask you not to close your eyes because I want you to be safe as well as other people. Yet the other prompts you're able to follow through that I guide us through in this meditation.
Mm.
So, Stefan, I'll ask you to gently close your eyes, and you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. Just bring your awareness to watching your breath and being aware of the rhythm. There may be some sensations or feelings that are coming up in the body. Allow them to come up. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go, while still keeping your awareness on your breath. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop into your body. Keep your awareness on your breath and drop further into your body. Now, Stefan, I'm going to ask you to create an intention in your mind that you want to bring forth in this conversation and for the listeners. And when you've created that intention, I'm going to ask you to release it in your mind and allowing it to drop down in your nervous system, through your voice, through your throat, down into your heart, going further down into your stomach, into your life force, while still staying with your breath, allowing that intention to grow and surround you. Still staying with your breath and dropping deeper into your body, allowing that intention to fully surround you. While still staying with your breath, at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes. How's your heart doing?
That's beautifully calmed down.
Can you let the listeners know who Stefan is?
This must be the most intriguing interview I've ever done. Because normally, when you're a tennis player and you're basically standing there ready to serve, you bounce your ball, and everyone is bouncing their ball twice, three times. Every basketball player is having a certain routine. The routine is to lift your frequency up, to actually get you going, to get you, yeah, I'm the winner. And here you are. You have basically now calmed me down in such a way that I can just calmly talk quietly. That is so not me. So who is Stefan? Who is Stefan? Well, Stefan is an anesthetist in New Zealand, and that is how I identified myself for so many years. Oh, that's what I am. I'm that external validation, that, all those alphabet soups behind my name. But really, deep inside, I had no idea who Stefan really was. And it took me a long time to realize that Stefan was actually influenced by a lot of trauma in his younger life, and that he had some core beliefs installed either by others or maybe by my own perceptions that were maybe not so productive. I was a man who was trying to escape his reality, trying to escape the trauma. And I became very good in that. I became a workaholic long before I became an alcoholic. But I'm a holic, I guess. That's what you can say. So it was always easier to run away from the problems and keep yourself busy with a lot of other things rather than facing problems, and not necessarily facing the problems, facing your emotions, especially the negative emotions. I was a man who hated to feel emotions and who was very good over the years, because of the trauma, to create walls, to protect himself. One of the core beliefs that was laid down in response to a gang assault that I was the victim of was that no one will ever help me. I am it. I'm the survivor. I gonna be now Rambo. And I turned from a pudgy little teenager into a fighting machine, quite literally. Um, a very dark-minded fighting machine by my late teens, and great physical body, beautiful PTSD that was certainly not recognized by me or anyone else in the 80s. So it was a very strange thing. And yeah, I became very good in later down the line escaping with alcohol, because that was the first time after 5 years of darkness that I suddenly felt that weight coming on my shoulders and felt the dopamine rush and the laughter that came, the belly laughter that came out of me, which was absolutely beautiful. And I thought, oh, what is causing that? And it was alcohol that I had with a group of friends. And I thought, ooh, I like that. And that was a very strong memory that was laid down. And I had a beautiful dopamine rush from it. So that was tricky. And nothing else had given me the dopamine rush. So, of course, I would in the future try to seek more of it and more of it and more of it, because I had not learned to feel my emotions whenever they were dark emotions like sadness or shame or guilt. I would try to run away, keep myself busy and things like that. When I couldn't be busy during the days of being a workaholic, then I drank alcohol until I fell asleep. So that was for many years, that was a kind of repeating pattern for me. So fast forward to my mid 40s, and more and more and more trauma had heaped up. More and more of bad decisions have equally heaped up. And I had to finally realize that actually maybe I'm part of the problem. Now, I didn't realize that. I had to go for rehab to initially detox and then live in a safe inpatient environment for 4 weeks, with the guidance of some beautiful, beautiful people, who were listening to me, what I was saying, and then asking questions with regards to those things that I was not saying. And that was the beautiful thing. It was a very emotional time, but it was also a time where I learned so much, and where I had so many breakthroughs. It was an unbelievable time. Roller coaster of emotions. And that was only the start. That was only the start of me starting to heal. But trauma comes in layers and healing comes in layers. So therefore, after a month of rehab, I thought, yeah, here I am, star pupil. As with everything, I'd thrown myself in it. And yeah, let's do all the steps at once. Yeah, come on. And uh, and I only afterwards realized that this was only the beginning. This was only the start of a journey that will continue until I have breathed my last breath on this earth. And I'm glad to be on this journey, because it's a journey of finding your why, not the oh, why me, or the poor me, poor me, poor me, another one. No, the why, as in, why do you want to be someone? Um, and this why is leading to the who do you want to be when you grow up? And it doesn't matter that I'm now 57. I still haven't figured out who I want to be when I grow up. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the privilege of living with intention, of the privilege of coming here to you onto this show, being open and authentic and speaking out the truth, revealing things about myself that maybe in the past I would have rather preferred to hide. But now, by actually spelling things out, I allow myself to confront the the problems. I allow myself to pause, to feel, and let my brain come up with solutions, because that's what our brain does. If we ask the right questions, we have got a supercomputer that will give you solutions, will give you good ideas, will tell you about the fact that your body's in pain, your soul is in pain. It will actually give you messages. But in the past, I kept myself far too busy and kept running away from listening to these messages. Nowadays, I'm a different man. Nowadays, um, I have learned to stop and listen. And sometimes it's bullshit, because there's this inner critic, and he is a nasty piece of work. So he has sometimes some not so nice things to say. But I listen to him, and then I ask myself, is that really true? And okay, you go away. And then there are other people living in me, and they sometimes have interesting ideas too. There's the survivor in me, the really ice cold dude who is quite happy to drink out of the skulls of his enemy. Um, he's a very good man to have around when shit hits the fan. But he goes over corpses. I mean, and so maybe sometimes it's good to have that dude by your side, but he shouldn't probably be out there playing all the time. So again, it's recognizing all these versions of myself and realizing that they are all there for a reason. They're all there, and I have to live with them, warts and all. Um, and it's coming to terms with the fact that I'm a complex man, a complex human, and with all the thoughts and all the not so nice things, but also with a huge amount of potential. And realizing that when you live with intention, you have got the ability to create habits, and those habits can either serve you really well if you stack them up into the direction of becoming a new, improved version of yourself. Or the same habits could also be used to bring you back and keep you back in the pity party, in the kind of poor me kind of situation. If you ask the why me? Why does it always happen to me? Your brain will give you 20 reasons why it always happens to you. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Or you could say, well, why do I want to be fit? And because I look good. Yeah, why do you want to look good? Why do you want to be that person? When you actually drive it down, suddenly you come to some core beliefs, some core issues that you then can address, with which you then can work. If they are bullshit, you can maybe reframe them. If they are really good and if they are breakthroughs, you can harness them to drive you forward on your path. It's beautiful. So yeah, bit of a complex answer. Who is Stefan? But that is Stefan. Complex, weird, nerdy at times, proud, weak, humble, big mouth. They are all me. And I hopefully most of the time I nowadays get it right and I bring out the right version of myself that allows me to grow and allows me to be a better human.
Are you playful?
Not enough. Not enough. There is still the survivor in me. And in all fairness, I mean, right now I'm going through a divorce after 27 years of marriage, and there's a lot of financial insecurity. There is a lot of not nice things going through my mind. Am I playful? No, no. At the moment, not. Yet I accept it and I recognize it for what it is. That at the moment there is very little joy. But I also recognize that right now, for me to now hunt that joy and push that joy at times when maybe I ought to use time wisely, at least for a month or two, in looking at my finances and maybe taking ownership of my life, extreme ownership, is maybe more beneficial. That does not mean to say that I completely do nothing else. No, there are moments when I just accept. No, I want to now watch some film that I like or some comedy, um, or um, even if I'm not playful. Well, I am playful. I'm great, and see. I was just I've taken on the challenge with one of my guests. He is a physical trainer, and he has got this bird dog challenge. So 100 bird dogs, which is holding a position basically 100 times a day. And I decided, well, okay, if I do that, I might as well take a crazy picture doing a bird dog in the most weird situations. Am I playful? Yes. So suddenly this creative part of me came out. So there's very much a playful person there. But again, this person, he can't come out all the time. He can't be silly all the time, and go, let's rather do an hour of juggling or do an hour of whatever it is. When really maybe you need to put out the fire first, that is about to burn down your house.
Yeah. I just want to take a moment because you just said something that was in depth, and there's a lot of emotions in that. So, a dismantling of a marriage of 27 years, there's a lot of grief in that. There's a lot of reflection. There's also a lot of what I'm hearing you say in your language is unsafety. And if
Mm,
you don't feel safe, the nervous system goes into the negative biases of wanting to protect. And so
absolutely.
the PTSD and the trauma will come to the forefront of how do we protect ourselves from this feeling of vulnerability, and finances is our highest activation of fear.
Absolutely.
And so that safety is prevalent because, yeah, you got to keep yourself, there's certain actions that you have to take to readjust and to re-look at things. And like you said, some radical accountability of me taking responsibility for my life and seeing certain things. So I just want to hold space for that, because a lot of times when we're going through the experience, and I thank you for sharing that, because a lot of times we don't share what's going on in our life like real time. We talk about it when we've already gone through it. So I just want to thank you for that vulnerability and showing, what it is to do the warrior work, still showing up when we have all these intimate experiences that are going on that a lot of people may not know. Like of
Exactly.
what, because we have to put on these masks, and when we have a profession and interacting with other people, yet it's really important for, especially when you've experienced a lot of significant trauma, when you've been younger, really understanding how your nervous system is shaped, and how that whenever there's unsafety, boy, everything starts to come right back in the
Oh,
compression.
absolutely.
And it's working at, those tools of, wait, there's an opening. Like, let me breathe a little bit more in depth. Let me find a little bit more laughter. Let me, be childlike and not get so serious with things, which is
Very true.
challenge.
Very, very true. Very true. And I loved it that you started your interview with a meditation, with breath work. I yesterday morning I was feeling quite ratty and kind of so I actually stepped out of the house and sat down and did some journaling. And as I was journaling, I realized that I was breathing very shallow. I was breathing very, very the typical I'm afraid breath. And immediately, I mean, it took half a second for me to immediately change that and say, okay, even whilst I was writing, I was saying, I'm very bad breathing at the moment there. And immediately my breaths changed. And within 5, 8 diaphragmatic breaths, I had changed my state. I had calmed down. And that was so beautiful. But these are all things, these are all lessons that I have learned because in the past I've gone through trauma. And because of my history, I recognize what is going on. Many of us have not yet had this breakthrough. Many of us have had the trauma, but don't realize the impact that it has left. Sometimes the trauma might have been at very early stages in our development, as in childhood, adverse childhood experiences. Sometimes it might be a genetic component with intergenerational trauma that has been handed down. And whilst it might sound stupid to people, what I mean, the trauma of my parents should somehow influence me. We nowadays get studies to actually show that and prove that. So there is often trauma is one of the root causes for us to choose behaviors that maybe are not so helpful for us in the long run, that are at best a band-aid, and worst is acid that you're fuel that you're pouring on the fire of destruction that is threatening your life. So yeah, so a very good point. It is that being that awareness and the making space for the sensation and feeling your emotion. I think that is that actually to feel that you are anxious, to feel the fear. It's not a nice sensation, hell no. Um, but it's there. So, okay, we might as well accept it, and because it's like a wave in the ocean. If you're swimming in the ocean, there's a big wave coming. You can look at that wave and say, "Oh, I hate you. You wave, you go away, go away. I don't like you." Well, guess what? That wave is coming, and it doesn't care if you like it or not. So therefore, you might as well either learn how to surf or swim with the wave or dive underneath it or feel the power of it and let it tumble you around a bit. That's all cool. But the wave doesn't care. But also, the wave will be gone in, I don't know, a minute for a wave or a few seconds. In the case of the wave of anxiety, well, if you know what to do, maybe within minutes, you can change your state if you want to. Even if you don't want to change it and just experience it, chances are within maybe 10 minutes, that anxiety attack is gone, or at least much improved. So therefore, just recognizing that feelings, emotions are waves of neurochemicals washing over you. Um, that means these waves are at some stage gone. So by you just hanging in there for a little bit, things will get better. That's a very powerful, powerful um, realization.
You said at the beginning or during your explanation that there's an inner critic in you.
Mm.
Have you befriended the inner critic?
My inner critic is a very nasty, nasty person. Um, so to befriend him would be rather the saying, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So befriend, I would not say, accept that he is there, that very much so. Also knowing that the inner critic might be a sign that I have slipped in my habits, that I slipped in the way that I'm protecting myself from the inner critic. I think that is important. Have I befriended him? No, he's a bastard. Friend is not the word that I would choose for him.
I'll ask you something. Have you ever saw that possibly your inner critic is your defense mechanisms in your nervous system? And it's
Well,
protecting you from going in a vulnerable state of explaining exactly what you're feeling?
let's work that through. One of the key messages of my inner critic is that I'm a failure. And he's very good in pointing that out to me. Now, if I look in my profession, I have achieved a very high state. If I look at my finances, well, you could look at that's actually not too bad for everything that has happened in my life, etc., etc. So if you look at certain things, you would think, wow, yet he will point out, no doubt, you're a failure. Um, so how would that protect me?
But the failure, what's the underpinning of the sensation of feeling like a failure? He's pointing out something, you're a failure, yet what is the feeling that's trying to come up that you're pushing away?
I don't know. I'm struggling there. I'm resisting that message because I don't think that I'm a failure, and I don't know. I don't know. I need
There
to
is,
reflect on that.
so when that message is coming up, most, in the core of us, what we are always trying to get back into is our worth and
Mm.
feeling not good enough. It's, the world has dictated that we have to be a certain way to have that sense of worth and value. And so when there's this sensation of I'm a failure, there are big emotions that you still haven't tapped into to feel in its entirety. Because
Okay.
feeling like a failure doesn't mean that you are a failure.
Mm.
The uncertainty and the unknown is very uncomfortable. So I'm going to try and protect you by telling you you're a failure so you don't actually have to feel the depths of what that feels like. Does that make sense at all?
In a convoluted way, yes, it does actually. Um, hmm. I much rather would like him to say I much rather would like him not to play the repeat of all the bad things that I've done in the last 45 years. But I rather to actually give me a way forward. Um, you are a failure. First of all, I have failed. Okay, I have failed in numerous occasions, and failure is good. Yet he is trying to trigger shame and guilt in me rather than saying you have failed, but um, Thomas Alva Edison failed 2000 times. And he never failed. He found 2000 ways how to not create a light bulb. Um, there you go. So there's nowadays my mind can work with that. You have failed. You are not a failure. Yet my inner critic wants to convince me otherwise.
But also, another language of changing about having to use the word failure is you're allowed to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
And so that language,
Absolutely.
what does your self-forgiveness look like?
You're asking hard questions, girl. I give you that. Nat. Self-forgiveness. Nowadays better. But that was a hard journey. Um, After all, it is for a doctor, it's quite good if 100% of your patients survive. Um, One or two failures, yeah, depends on what kind of work you're doing. No, okay. So of course I'm a 100%er, 120%er, kind of a thing. So I'm on back foot there when it comes to forgiveness. Having said that, I nowadays accept that failure is part of your growth, that it is okay to make mistakes. And that's only because of mistakes you learn, only because you have made wrong decisions, that you know the value of decisions and in the future make the right decisions. So all that has been a steep learning curve throughout my life. But no, self-forgiveness is, I'm still working on that.
That's why the inner critic comes up.
Mm.
The forgiveness. And, a lot of listeners may not understand this, yet those that are in the medical profession or gone through medical training, if they have a language, that in itself is very traumatic because you're not allowed to have any room for error because these are lives that you're dealing with.
Mm.
And
It's
so
the same
that,
with policemen. It's the same with soldiers. It's the same with many other people on the front lines.
but doctors,
Um,
it's really,
mm,
the medical field is very chastising, is very belittling. If you do make a
mm,
mistake, you're shunned in front of your peers, you're called out, and it's very traumatic. There's
mm,
bullying, there's all kinds of things just in the training of that. So then that
yeah.
wires your nervous system also.
Mm,
So fuel it with trauma in your, younger years, and then you're going into a profession that even traumatizes you even more of that, there is no room for error. Then it becomes even more difficult to do that inner journey of vulnerability because it's like, no, I'm not allowed to make mistakes,
oh,
which
I
is
like it.
true. Yet
But I see
it's
the compounding effect there. That is very, very true. I didn't appreciate it to this extent, but now that you spell it out, it actually makes a hell of a lot of sense.
it's huge. So
Mm.
then when you're looking at your personal life, it's like, okay, let me feel this. Yet your professional life is so ingrained in your identity that it's like, no, we aren't allowed to make any mistakes. Failure is not an option. Mistakes is not an option because,
Touche.
it, it's your defense mechanisms protecting you that in your profession, if there's a mistake, all kinds of things can happen to us.
Mm, mm.
So that inner journey looks much more complex for like a doctor.
That's true. That's very, very true.
So
And
your defense mechanisms are really trying to protect you. That's what that inner critic is. And it's valid to be in fear.
indeed, indeed. And I think let's uh, put a spotlight on fear. Because fear, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. Fear
No,
is a sympathetic nervous system response that is part and parcel of the adrenaline surge of etc. It's good to feel fear. The problem is the moment you get paralyzed by fear, when it becomes it's basically a funky curve when you draw it. So that's your baseline. When if you have a little bit of fear, that's probably not a bad thing. And it increases your function up to a point when then the fear becomes so extreme, it actually reduces your function again. It's that kind of a curve. So that curve of fear is actually good if we are in that part. fear is part of our life. The problem is if that fear is getting triggered by every single email that is coming through, by every single phone call that you get, that's counterproductive. I think that's where we need to work with that fear. So at the whilst I'm going through a lot of shit at the moment, I see it actually as a stress inoculation therapy, as a fear inoculation therapy. So I'm going through so much fear at the moment. Hey, when I'm out of that part of my life, I don't think there's so much that well, okay, this is not a challenge.
Yeah, I'm like,
Okay,
be
yeah, that's
careful.
right. Yeah, exactly. I need to be careful what I say. The pantheon of gods up there is thinking, yeah, right. Listen to him. See what we come up next.
Yeah, life has its way of bringing the curriculum, and it's like, oh, I've arrived and everything, nothing will. And it's like, oh, yeah, here we
Yeah,
go. And
right.
it's like, oh my gosh,
Exactly.
stretching
Exactly right.
some more. I just hope I gave you a little bit of insight within to see the levels and see, a bit of what you may not have been able to see. Because when we're subjective and in our own little world, it's can be really challenging um to get involved with our biology, our nervous system.
Oh,
And like it's a beast. It's a very powerful
yeah.
system, and it's very insidious of the languages, and it's very confusing too, because it's like a part wants the vulnerability to come up, the sensitivity, but then there's another part that's the defense mechanisms of no, we got to
Absolutely.
protect you from that. So there
Mm,
becomes this kind of conflict and chaos that goes inside, and
mm,
like you're very disorientated, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy in my head, yet
mm,
it's being that observer and bringing harmony between the two. Like you said, like that guy is so awful and he's saying failure and he's saying this, where it's like, okay, well, let's rearrange it. Let's re-see what that is, because everything is for your good. It's like, but we've given certain things definitions, like the negative and positive, where
mm,
it's like, no, everything is there for a reason.
mm.
So let's find out what the messages are. Yet to hear the messages, you need to feel, and to feel the depth of
Exactly.
the overwhelm is like, oh fuck, I don't want to feel this. This is just,
Mm,
like my pain tolerance is just so much, because feeling our emotions bring up some pain. Like this is
mm,
discomfort, and your heart's racing, your blood's flowing. It's biologically a discomfort to go through
mm.
those things. And a
Absolutely.
lot of times we do it on our own and we forget, like, let's find somebody that we can have a feedback
Yeah.
that can
Yeah.
help us navigate the waves.
Mm. And I think that is the nice thing here. So there was definitely, or there is definitely a high level of fear and uncertainty that is driving me in recent weeks and months. Yet by me being humble enough to actually open up just in front of you as a friend and maybe a few thousand people who are listening. Yeah, by actually spelling things out, I give myself permission to explore what is really going on inside myself. So, not whilst, in reality, this is a win-win-win-win-win situation. First of all, I'm I will leave this interview with a lot of revelation, with a lot of with a sense of wow, okay, I didn't consider that, or wow, good that I felt that. So that's a win. It's a win of you planting that seed of looking at your inner critic as a friend. It is a win for me. Hey, I've done another interview as a guest, so it's a validation for me as a speaker. It's a win because I have shown up this morning. There's always the kind of imposter syndrome. There's always the kind of, oh my, who are you to come onto a show? And I've beaten that imposter syndrome already. I've showed up. So many things were very positive. By me opening up, by me being authentic, honest, um, showing integrity, it is a beautiful thing. Um, and that's how growth essentially happens. that is how we can allow ourselves to become new versions of ourselves. You can't grow when you keep hiding behind your mask. You can't grow um, when you try to run away. And we all have got that tendency. That might be, for some of us, might be porn, might be sugar, it might be TikTok for 8 hours a day. It might be, there's so many versions of us trying to uh, just hide, try to escape our reality. And that's not how progress is made. And I think for that, I'm grateful. For that, I'm very, very grateful that I have learned to open my mouth when it matters and to shut my mouth and listen to others who maybe are further down the path, um, and get inspiration and get hope from them. Because one of my core beliefs in the past was, there is never any help, there's no hope. It's all fight, 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 Rambo. And that is a lie. And that's the lie that mental health problems tell us, that addiction tells us. They are perfect liars. And only by us opening up to people who have an understanding of what is going on, will we be able to improve and become newer versions, probably better versions of ourselves. And that is a journey that I'm nowadays addicted to be on. I love the growth. I love the way I've changed in the last hour now. Um, that is a roller coaster of emotions in its own right. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Thank you for allowing yourself to be vulnerable and to be open. That willingness is what helps us in the healing. Yet it can be very difficult to surrender and have that willingness to be curious of, let me go beyond what I think this structure is and hear maybe a different way to look at it. Instead of
Mm.
looking left, I can look right, but I don't think I can look right yet. Let me peek a little bit. And, thank you for allowing that
Yeah.
sacred space.
Mm.
It's safety. It's
Yeah.
only in safety can we allow the nervous system to disengage its fight or flight.
Yeah.
And that radical honesty is what creates healing.
Mm. But also the stress inoculation and the fear inoculation. For those of people who don't know what I'm talking about, is basically if you're a soldier, you will be put into more and more stressful situations, more and more harder situations, as a leader, until you come out at the end as such a version where whatever is thrown at you, you're not really getting too much upset about it because you've gone through so much worse in your training. That is the same thing that you can do with life, that you can do with actually opening up. So every moment where you have a really deep, meaningful conversation with someone who matters, um, that is when you grow. That is when suddenly it is no longer as difficult to admit that you might have a problem with something that your way of coping might at the moment be rather a double-edged sword that hurts you, whilst on the one hand it takes the pain away for a short period of time. It you know I mean, in the case of alcohol, yes, you being drunk for a few hours might just numb you a little bit, and that is quite nice. But the next day you have got the anxiety. You've got the same anxiety, plus now you've got a hangover, so anxiety. Um,
Oh, I
so
like that one.
the, isn't it? No, it is. That's the problem that so many people are facing.
Yeah.
And it initially, whatever you try, whatever new thing you try, will be feeling so difficult, like being open, like talking to someone. But actually, once you have done it once, it becomes a bit easier the next time, and a bit easier the next time. And suddenly you actually look forward to talking about difficult topics, because you realize that every time you talk about them, you chip a bit away. So out of this massive piece of granite, suddenly there's, maybe there's a structure coming out. And I don't know if it will be a beautiful statue, or if it will be just, I don't know, SpongeBob SquarePants or something like that. Who cares? Who am I to judge? But chances are it's going to be better than the initial piece of marble that you started off with. So I think we can all grow, and I think by us growing, by us changing, we in turn can change the people around us. And if enough of us are going onto this journey, I think we can change this world. But we need to start in there. We need to start with ourselves. And I think that is the key message that I want to send out there. You were asking, what is your key message? What are you thinking about? And my key message was, first of all, there is hope, and the past does not equal the future. These were the two things that came to my mind. So to come full circle from your initial question, the past does not equal the future. Whatever decisions you have made in the past, well, that was the past. You have got the duty to reflect on them and learn from them. That's absolutely fine. But they are in the past, you can't change them. But you can very much learn from them and make new decisions. And we have got every second of the day. We all have got the same seconds in a day. Some of us are just choosing to use those seconds in a more intentional fashion, rather than just floating around like a cork on the ocean surface. Now, we try to create habits that maybe lead us a little bit further into the direction that we ultimately would like to grow into. And whatever that may be, learning the meditation, learning breath work, learning stretching, actually using this beautiful endocrine body called muscles in our body, where we actually use exercise to maybe work with our demons. Issues lie in the tissues. So therefore, if we actually work with those tissues, maybe we can work on the issues as well. Equally, depression hates a moving target. So if we actually increase some activity in our life, we change our frequencies, we change our whole showing up. Life will be easier because your body is in a better shape to deal with things. So it is little steps by step by step that we can put habits in place that will assure a greater degree of resilience, and therefore a much easier way for you to deal with new trauma, which is inevitable, with change that is inevitable. Um, it's just a matter of how we then can deal with it, how we can reframe what is happening to us, how we can create new thought models that allow us to be stronger and lead us within our own families, lead us within those group of people that are you, to actually bring the right person forward, not the survivor, not the destructive dude, but actually the dude who says, hey guys, just shut up for a moment. I've got an idea. And why don't we just get up, have a glass of water, okay, and rehydrate? So we've made one good thing, we've done something for our body. Then, okay, later on we eat something, and you know what? We just put a salad leaf on there or some spinach on there. Just, because we can. Okay, so you've done something healthy for you. Ooh, 2 wins. Um, Now, why don't we just walk somewhere? Just 5 minutes walking. Oh, 3 wins. And so on. By us creating those habits, we can change. We can change us, and we can change the world.
Exactly. Now, I know the listeners are like, okay, where can I find this gentleman and how can I get in his vicinity? So can you let the listeners know where they can find you?
Sure. Absolutely. So my show is called Neff Inspiration. It is on YouTube and as a podcast. Neffinspiration.com is my website. And Neff Inspiration or Stefan Neff. You will find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Life is worthwhile living. Life is beautiful, warts and all. And I think I want to prove to you that the past does not equal the future. I've made many mistakes in the past, and they made me who I am now. So if I can get my shit together, I think I want to encourage you. Come on, if I can do it, so can you. So there is hope, there is help, and go out there and create that power team where you are the dumbest person in that team, and surround yourself with people who are further down the path, whatever your path is, whatever your next steps are. There is hope and there is help.
I want to bring you into a reflective question. So I'm going to ask you to bring your awareness right now and to go back to your 18-year-old self. And you can tell your 18-year-old self 3 words to carry you along the journey. What would those 3 words be?
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Sorry, 4. It's not your fault. It is, we take on so much in our younger years. And I would have loved to go onto this journey at a much earlier stage. But then again, I would have not made all the wrong decisions that led me to the person who I am nowadays. So, but at the same token, it is, I certainly, by believing my own core beliefs, believing them without questioning them, I think I did a lot of harm. And yeah, it's not your fault. It would be something to just start the discussion and maybe plant that one seed for this young man to maybe would have made different decisions. But no, would I go back with a time machine and would change things? No, because it is, without all the wrong decisions, I would have not been the man who I am now. So, and the man who I am now, I'm proud of, warts and all. Yeah, the past does not equal the future.
Exactly. This has been such an enriching and vulnerable conversation. There's been times where I've been at the cusp of tears, of really feeling the raw truth that has been revealed in this conversation. So thank you so much for honoring me and also enriching the audience with content. You know, 1 is a million, so I know there's going to be more than one that's going to be impacted by this conversation. And for the listeners, all of Stefan's information will be in the show notes, so he'll be easily accessed. And I highly suggest that you go onto his podcast, reach out to him, create a conversation, ask questions, and even the gentlemen, because men in mental health, there's spaces that are being created, but yet not enough, and not enough in a way that can be the real raw vulnerability of discovering things about yourself and allowing all of you to be accepted, not just certain parts, and to allow that wholeness to be there. So I really thank you for this very profound conversation between the 2 of us.
It was an absolute honor. It was a privilege. Thank you so much. And thank you for creating this opportunity for people to share their thoughts, their emotions, and to be vulnerable. Without people like you, we wouldn't have all these discussions. So thank you so much for being Nat, who is having this wonderful, wonderful podcast.
Thank you. Remember to be kind to yourself.
Hey, you made it all the way here. I appreciate you and your time. If you found value in this conversation, please share it out. If there was somebody that popped into your mind, take action and share it out with them. It possibly may not be them that will benefit, it's that they know somebody that will benefit from listening to this conversation. So please take action and share out the podcast. You can find us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Lift Oneself. And if you want to inquire about the work that I do and the services that I provide to people, come over on my website, come into a discovery call, liftoneself.com. Until next time, please remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. You matter.